I'd like to ask how many of you have not seen this presentation? Okay. For those of you who have, sorry, you said you're right, too bad, so sad. But for those of you who don't, I probably have a lot of good information for you, and it's going to make sense. I know Elizabeth probably has covered some of the stuff that I will cover this morning, but I may have a little more detail since the inception of the program came through the Irvine Police Department when we first started it. I'll tell you a little bit about myself and how this program came to be and how your company adopted it. I worked for the Irvine Police Department for 26 years, was a dispatcher, and then I went into crime prevention, which means we try to prevent or mitigate crime in areas sometimes that we look at. And before a crime ever happens, we try to instill the kinds of things that would keep crime out. In some cases, a lot of cases, we would have crime occurring. I would have to go out and do an assessment, try to figure out what was contributing to the crime, and then we would try to mitigate that, reduce the crime. One of the problems we're having in Irvine, about the time, a few years before I came here to your company, was that we had some storage facilities that were having enormous crime. Meaning, somebody would come in the weekend hours, they had bought a unit, they would go inside their unit, tunnel through all the way to the other end, had a truck on the opposite end, load up the truck, drive out the gates. And it was consistent. And it was in the same facility. And it happened time after time after time. And then it started moving. So my job was to find out what was causing that crime and to try to mitigate it, try to reduce the crime that was in that storage facility. So I started searching around and I found a little program that in Arizona. So I sent something out to all of our storage managers. I'm like, okay, if it's happening there, and it's starting to happen here, pretty soon it's going to be citywide, and then we're going to have an epidemic. So all of the managers came to the training. Sam was one of those people. He came to the training, he saw the program. I don't remember whether Sonny and Cindy came with you, or whether you came first and then shared it with them. You were at Woodbridge.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Okay, so Sonny and Cindy came as well, and Sam was the first certified property. We implemented the program, it worked really well. Sam had the first certified property in Irvine, and administratively they decided to adopt the program company-wide, which was not an easy thing to do because there were a whole lot of things that we kind of had to change and modify and all of that. But to their credit, you are the only company that I'm aware of that company-wide has adopted this program in the United States. And I can tell you, yeah, that's really a kudos to you guys. And I can guarantee you that you are seeing, if you are seeing crime, you are seeing far less crime than all these other folks that are clueless because they've not implemented your property. Your program. Now, there are some things that a lot of companies do that you do as well, but they don't have the total package. So, as I go through this presentation, there are going to be some things that I talk about that your company may not do. And that's okay. Because, what I'm talking about is optimally, this would be a wonderful thing to do if we could do all of these things. But realistically, it's an awful lot. Some things work for some properties, some things don't work for other properties, but the core things you're all doing. The disc locks, the crime-free addendum, those kinds of things you're all doing. In 2006, as Sonny said, he offered me a position, and I worked at Plano for a period of time. And it was an eye-opener for me because I was up talking about all these wonderful things that this program could do and all the things that we should implement on the property. And then when I actually got on the property and did all the management things I was supposed to do, I'm like, there's no way you can do all this stuff that I was talking about before I was knowledgeable about the management side of it. So, as we talk about these, Don't get concerned if you see things that your company's not doing or that your property's not doing. But in your mind, you might see something that fits your property that you might be able to implement pretty easily, and it could work for you. Okay. How many of you felt like this at one time or another? Like you've got that tenant, you've got a situation on your property that you just can't get fixed. You've got some kind of issue with the city or your manager. Okay, well this is the way I feel today because I've got about 4 hours of presentation to do in about 2.5 hours. So I'm going to talk fast. I can guarantee you we are not going to get through everything, but I gave you handouts. I will also tell you that your handouts actually at this point now don't reflect the progression of this presentation because last night I tried to kind of reconfigure things so I could get in at least the really important stuff. But it's all in your handouts, and I would encourage you to look through those when you get back, if you have the time, because there's a lot of good information in there. All right. This program is called the International Crime-Free Self-Storage Program. And it actually is international. It's in Korea, it's in Japan, it's all over the world. But it's not in any company. It's individual self-storage properties that have decided to adopt. When you see the word crime-free, are you expecting that when you do this, you're never, ever, ever, ever going to have crime on your property? No. Nothing's 100%. You never can eliminate crime totally. But what we want to do is we want to put layers of things that discourage the bad guys from coming onto your property and committing crimes when you can send them next door to the next self-storage property. And they can do that crime over there. Bad guys are looking for an easy way in, an easy way out, and easy wins. And if you make it tough, if you put up a lot of roadblocks, as they come in and take a look at your property, they're like, not so much. I can go someplace else and do this a whole lot easier than I can here. And time is a threat to the bad guys, because the more time they spend doing whatever they're going to do, their nefarious things, the more likely they are to get caught. So if we can put up things that are going to take time to get through, they'll go someplace else, and that's what we want them to do. Occasionally you're going to have crime on the property, but we're going to talk about that. But this is going to mitigate a whole lot of what it is that we're concerned about. All right. This is what the program is designed to do. We want to reduce the crimes, and that takes, it's not just you that's going to do it. That takes the owners, that takes the managers, that takes the staff, it takes the police department, it takes the fire department, and it takes community members, those people who work around you and your tenants. So as your new tenants come in and they are wanting to rent something from you, even if you're on the phone, that's the time to start educating them that we work as a team to keep crime off of our property. We're a crime-free property. Which means, I mean, you don't have to tell them this, which means that we're doing everything we can to keep crime away. Okay? It's just like having a drug-free environment. Are there going to be drugs? There might be, but you're going to do what you can in order to keep that off. Okay, so it's a community partnership. We're all going to work together against the bad guy. And there he is. Go ahead. Takes all of these guys to make this guy go away. And that's what we're going to do. The renters, management, the police, and people around you, businesses around you, because you can spread this information out. Hey, if I'm off the property, if you've got a property where the manager lives on the property, go next door. If I'm off the property, I'll let you know. Could you kind of keep an eye on everything while I'm gone? If you see anything unusual, if you see somebody driving through your parking lot, and it looks like they're cruising, give me a call, let me know. Even between managers, hey, I just had some guy come in, if he shows up on your property. And optimally, what would be nice is if not only you guys, but surrounding storage facilities would share information. Saw a bad guy, if he comes to rent with you, so that you could share from place to place, not just to protect you, but to protect everybody in the storage industry. But, you know, that's not going to happen. So, okay. All right, so here's what we're going to do. Go ahead. Set it all up here. So here's what we want to do. First of all, first and foremost, we want to prevent them from even coming onto our property and getting a foothold. Okay? So if we can stop them on the front end, we're going to do that. We're going to reduce those opportunities for crime. If we have criminal activity going on our property, we want to identify that early so we can do something about it before it gets out of hand. We want to decrease the delay from the time a crime occurs to the time it's discovered. What does that mean? If we have a crime on our property, we want to catch it right now so we can get the police out right now, so we can get something happening right now to catch these bad guys with the property, if that's what they're doing. So here's what we're trying to do. We're trying to discover this in a timely manner so that we can let the police know and we get something done about right now so that it doesn't go over a weekend or over several days. Because as you know, if you watch any of the crime shows, the first 48 hours is the important time. The longer it goes, the less likely it is that they're going to catch those bad guys. Okay. Increased property recovery rate. The sooner the crime is reported, the better the chances are of recovering property. That's just what I talked about. Go ahead, you can just go ahead and set it all up. Benefits of the program. We are armed with effective tools. I'm giving you today a lot of tools. Your company has in place a lot of tools that are going to keep those bad guys out. Part of that is screening, and that's going to be your addendum. And just exactly what we talked about. Immediate crime discovery, immediate victim notification, and reduced police calls for service. And that we end up with 100% occupation of law-abiding citizens who are taking care of their property and our property along with us. All right. And best of all, because you guys have adopted this program, the eviction has been upheld by the U.S. Supreme Court as a direct result of the crime-free programs. And what that means is, here's the story. A criminal was evicted out of a storage facility because of crimes committed in a neighboring city, and the Supreme Court ruled that that was considered near the property, and they upheld the eviction. He sued them for evicting him. The Supreme Court said, no, no, no. You committed crimes near the property in a neighboring city. So you've got that behind you. So if you have to evict somebody, you've got all those things in place. You're going to have that crime-free addendum. You're going to have all the things in place that you need to go, and you can go to court and say, you know, we did screening, we did this, we told him this, he signed this, he did the thumbprint, he did all those things he was supposed to do. He knew before he ever committed the crime, even if it's in a neighboring city. Okay, so here's what you guys are going to do. In Irvine, well, let me talk about this first. You're going to attend the training today and become certified. You have to be certified every 2 years to continue to stay in the program. So for those of you who have been here before, that's why you're here again. Okay, these are the things you have to do, that you absolutely have to do. You have to do that crime-free lease addendum. You have to have a disc lock only policy. You have to use the security breakaway tape. And you have already done this about the crime-free program, and you need to train all current or new employees, and Elizabeth does that to a certain extent because of that certification. I come to talk to you every 2 years. Okay. In Irvine, if you belong to the crime-free program, you will probably have this sign at the front of your property. because I was doing that program. In other cities, you won't have this, you may not have this at your property, you may. Some cities have the crime-free program, some cities do not. But whether or not they do, you're doing all the things on the inside when the person walks into the office. And you are also, I'm hoping, when you're talking to the person on the phone, somebody who's looking for rates or whatever, you're letting them know, you know, we belong to the Crime-Free International Program. That's something that they're looking for. They're looking for safety for their property, a safe place to be. Go ahead. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the crimes and the ordinance violations. All right. This is exactly what the tenants look for. Of course they look for the location. If it's something that's convenient to them, something that's affordable, everybody's concerned about price and what it's going to cost them. If it's clean, if your property, if you walk in up to the property and it looks aesthetically pleasing, they will drive around, they might drive around or they might come with you, and as they're looking at people that are around, they're going to see if they're like sleazy characters or the right kind of people. But here's the number one thing. Is it safe for me and my property? And if you can instill upon them from the minute you start talking to them that you're a crime-free property, that you adhere to the International Crime-Free Program, that's going to be one of those barriers, those earlier barriers, to keeping your property crime-free, to keeping the bad guys out. Because when they know that you're a crime-free property and that you belong to a law enforcement program, they may not even show up. They may not even go any further. That may be the one thing that you said to them that keeps them out, and you don't have to go any further. All right. Fire storage facilities a prime target. Can you blank that? Do you know how to do that? Okay. Okay.
Just go back.
Okay. How many of you have had crime on your property? Anybody? What was yours?
Break-in.
Break-in. They break into the office, or they break into a storage unit?
Storage units.
Okay, what was yours?
People cut down the fence and came into the property, but luckily didn't get in.
Okay, so they were, and that actually is called, when somebody cuts your fence or crawls over your fence, whether they they steal anything, when your property is closed, in the nighttime hours or on the weekends or whenever your property is closed, if somebody crawls over a fence, that becomes burglary. Because they came in with the intent to do something harmful. If you were a store and you had doors and windows and they were locked and somebody broke in, that would be considered burglary because the intent was there. Well, when they climb over your fence, that becomes burglary. Whether or not they steal anything, it becomes burglary. Okay, who else?
We just had one on Saturday. They climbed over the fence and jumped into a unit, or broke into the unit.
Okay, and they broke in by the lock?
Yeah, they actually had a combination lock.
Oh, really? That's just so exciting. I mean, it's not exciting that you had the property, but yeah, combination locks. Bad news. Okay. All right. So all the things that you can think about. Break-ins, tunneling, breaking into the office, stealing files, stealing stuff out of somebody's unit. But there are other things that people do. They might rent a unit to store stolen things. Or body parts.
Oh.
Yeah. Or a van. Or weapons. Or explosives. They might be storing. They might not be taking from you. They might be bringing the bad stuff to you. Why? Why do bad guys pick on storage facilities? Well, first of all, along with all of these things, you folks are unseen by everybody who's wanting, except the people who are wanting storage. Usually, the police departments don't pay a whole lot of attention to storage facilities unless they start seeing an epidemic. You're kind of the unseen people. They monitor apartment complexes, they monitor residential burglaries, they monitor the businesses, but the storage properties, you're such a small percentage of whatever your city is, that unless there's an epidemic, they're not really paying a whole lot of attention. You're kind of under the wire, under the radar. And the bad guys know that. They also know if they want to go shopping, it's like a wealth of, whatever. Because it doesn't matter what you have. If you have a t-shirt, an old jacket, and you throw it in the back of your car, and lock your car and walk away from it, there is somebody out there on the street that needs a jacket. And when you come back, your car might be broken into because somebody wanted that jacket. Well, all the goodies that are in there, somebody's going to want some of. And if you're not doing the things you need to do to pay attention, they can just go in and pick and choose. Okay? So that's an enticement for the bad guys. They're secluded, usually concealed from public view. Maybe not the office, but all those units in the back. Nobody can see it, nobody can get into, hopefully.